Hey Midnights. Thank you for listening to Midnight Overdose. Where are you listening from? Our next story, Beneath Shimmering Depths, a rebel mermaid's forbidden connection ignites hope in a world divided by ancient betrayals and cataclysmic powers. The sapphire depths of the Coral Kingdom shimmered, reflecting the distant sun like shattered jewels, but to Lyra, they often felt like the bars of a gilded cage. Here, among the iridescent anemones and silent, swaying kelp forests, Lyra lived. Unlike most of her kin, whose scales were the cool blues and greens of the ocean, Lyra's tail was a defiant, vibrant sunset orange, fading to a soft, sandy gold at the fins. Each scale was perfectly formed, overlapping like tiny, polished gemstones, catching the light with every desperate flick of her powerful fluke. Her dorsal fin, a delicate fringe of the same golden hue, rippled behind her, while her pectoral fins, surprisingly strong yet graceful, allowed her to dart through the water with effortless agility. Lyra's skin, a smooth, unblemished alabaster, contrasted starkly with the vibrant warmth of her tail, a beacon in the cool depths. Her hair, the color of wet obsidian, cascaded down her back in thick, wavy tendrils, often adorned with strands of iridescent pearls or woven with luminous deep-sea flora. Her eyes were a striking aquamarine, wide and intelligent, framed by long, dark lashes, holding a restless spark that defied the ancient, stifling quiet of her world. A faint shimmer of bioluminescence often clung to her, a natural glow from her deep-sea origins, a subtle inner fire. The merfolk shared an ancient, profound bond with the creatures of the sea, a relationship far deeper than mere coexistence. They were not rulers, but protectors and communicators, their very essence intertwined with the ocean's lifeblood. Every merfolk possessed an innate ability to empathize with marine life, sensing their emotions, understanding their needs, and even subtly influencing their behavior without coercion. Large schools of fish would part for them, great whales would gently brush against them in passing, and even the most formidable predators, like sharks, would acknowledge their presence with respectful distance. The merfolk often acted as healers for injured animals, guiding them to restorative kelp beds or using their specialized knowledge of marine remedies to mend wounds. They were the ocean's living memory, observing patterns of migration, anticipating storms through the distress of seabirds, and reading the health of the coral through the vibrancy of the smallest plankton. This deep connection was not a power to be activated, but a constant state of being, a responsibility passed down through generations. They communicated through a complex interplay of clicks, whistles, and low-frequency hums that resonated through the water, a language understood by marine life and a testament to their profound unity with their environment. The Coral Kingdom was one of 4 great merfolk settlements that remained, their collective survival rooted in a fragile but enduring alliance forged in the crucible of ancient betrayals. For centuries, there had been a 5th, the sunken city of Ethel, a kingdom of unsurpassed beauty and intellectual prowess. But the betrayal of its leader had shattered that grand alliance, leaving only 4 to cling to existence. Though separated by vast stretches of ocean, these remaining kingdoms maintained ancient conduits of communication and shared defense strategies against common threats. Their combined population numbered perhaps a few thousand, their numbers dwindling with each passing generation, emphasizing the critical, desperate need for their unity and secrecy in a world that seemed determined to erase them. Each kingdom, through centuries of unique adaptation and focused spiritual practices, had developed a distinct and formidable power, abilities that, if unleashed without control, could bring about cataclysmic devastation to the entire Earth, threatening both the land and the very oceans they sought to protect. The Coral Kingdom, Lyra's home, was nestled deep within a colossal, living coral reef that rose from the abyssal plain like a submerged mountain range. Its structures were not built, but grown and nurtured, intricate formations of brain coral meticulously guided to form spiraling towers and sheltered alcoves. It was adorned with glowing sea anemones that pulsed with soft, eternal light, a false dawn in the eternal twilight. Pathways carved through dense, towering kelp forests, acting as natural windbreaks, providing a constant, shimmering green canopy that sometimes felt like a suffocating blanket. The central Grand Grotto, with its ceiling encrusted with phosphorescent organisms, mimicked a treacherous, starry night sky, serving as the primary gathering hall where the weight of history hung heavy in the water. The Coral Kingdom was known for its tide weavers, merfolk who could subtly manipulate currents and conjure illusions, making their territory appear treacherous and unwelcoming to outsiders, a desperate attempt to ward off danger. Their ultimate, carefully guarded power was hydrokinesis on a grand scale. A few highly trained tide weavers could, in unison, command and redirect vast ocean currents, creating walls of water, or drawing down colossal storms on the surface. If uncontrolled, this power could trigger tsunamis that would reshape continents or alter global weather patterns irrevocably. They also excelled in aquaculture, cultivating vast gardens of nutrient-rich seaweed and bioluminescent algae, and carefully managing schools of fish for sustenance. Every meal was a reminder of the precious, finite nature of their hidden existence. Far to the west, in the crushing depths where sunlight feared to tread, lay the abyssal spire. This kingdom was built into a colossal, extinct volcanic vent, its core radiating a gentle geothermal warmth that fostered unique life forms. The merfolk here possessed scales of deep indigo and violet, almost black, perfectly camouflaged in the perpetual twilight. Their eyes were larger, adapted to the gloom, sometimes glowing with an inner, spectral light. Their homes were carved directly into the obsidian-like rock, fortified against the immense pressure, and illuminated by glowing veins of geothermal vents and carefully cultivated luminous flora, a defiance against the crushing dark. The abyssal spire merfolk were the guardians of the deep, possessing unparalleled knowledge of the ocean's abyssal creatures and currents. They were masters of sonics, their voices capable of producing powerful, focused sound waves that could disorient the formidable kraken's kin or map the ocean floor with chilling precision. Their singular, awe-inspiring power was the resonance of the deep. They could vibrate the very tectonic plates of the ocean floor, creating localized tremors that could destabilize underwater volcanoes or carve new trenches. Uncontrolled, this power held the terrifying potential to trigger massive underwater earthquakes, setting off a chain reaction of volcanic eruptions and seabed collapses that could devastate marine ecosystems and generate untold destructive power on the surface. They supplied the other kingdoms with rare, phosphorescent minerals and potent medicinal deep-sea plants, vital resources wrestled from the abyss itself. To the south, in shallower, warmer waters, lay the shifting sand citadel. This kingdom was a marvel of desperate adaptation, built upon and within vast, constantly shifting sand dunes. Their dwellings were ingenious constructions of compacted sand and intertwined, calcified anemones, forming domes and tunnels that could be quickly reconfigured or even moved in response to powerful storms or human incursions, a nomadic existence born of necessity. Their scales were earthy tones of brown, gold, and green, allowing them to blend seamlessly with the sandy seabed and seagrass meadows, becoming ghosts in the currents. These merfolk were the ocean scouts and communicators, known for their incredible speed and endurance. They possessed a unique ability to sense vibrations through the sand and water over vast distances, detecting the approaching rumble of human vessels or the predatory glide of mythical beasts long before they were seen, their lives hanging on every ripple. Their perilous ability was the shifting earth resonance. They could subtly accelerate the erosion of coastlines or trigger underwater landslides by manipulating the granular structure of the seabed. If unleashed recklessly, this power could cause coastal cities to crumble into the sea, trigger massive mudslides, and permanently alter marine geography, devastating terrestrial and aquatic life alike. They provided the other kingdoms with vital, early intelligence on surface activities and were renowned for their exquisite pearl cultivation, trading these gems for other resources that their shifting home couldn't provide. Located in the frigid, crystalline waters of the far north, the glacier throne was carved into the heart of a colossal, stable iceberg that drifted slowly with the polar currents. Their scales were opalescent, shifting from icy blue to frosty white, often shimmering with trapped air bubbles, reflecting the harsh beauty of their world. Their bodies were stockier, built to withstand the punishing cold, and their powerful tails were exceptionally broad, allowing for swift movement through dense ice. Their homes were magnificent, sculpted halls of clear, shimmering ice, reflecting ambient light into dazzling prisms, a fragile sanctuary. The merfolk of the glacier throne were the lore keepers and ice speakers. They possessed an ancient, innate power to manipulate water in its frozen state, subtly shifting colossal icebergs, creating temporary, defensive ice barriers against monstrous threats, or even accelerating the formation of ice in hostile waters, their mastery a testament to their chilling power. Their ultimate power, the cryoanima, allowed them to rapidly freeze vast expanses of water. Without precise control, this ability could plunge entire regions into sudden, catastrophic ice ages, disrupt global currents, and lock up essential water resources, leading to worldwide ecological collapse and unimaginable suffering for all life. They guarded vast libraries of kelp parchment scrolls containing ancient histories, celestial navigation charts, and forgotten magics, acting as the collective, endangered memory of the merfolk race. They shared specialized cold-resistant flora and vital knowledge of polar currents and treacherous weather patterns, their wisdom a grim necessity. And then there was the sunken city of Ethel, a kingdom now whispered only in hushed tones, its name a curse. Once, it had been the jewel of the merfolk, a bastion of learning and luminous beauty, known for its merfolk with scales like polished jade and eyes that gleamed with profound intellect. Their unique power, The luminous soul song allowed them to manipulate light on a grand scale, to create dazzling illusions or to unleash blinding bursts of pure energy, not just physical light, but also the very essence of clarity and truth. It was a power that could illuminate the darkest depths or shatter the senses with its brilliance. But their leader, consumed by a thirst for forbidden knowledge and convinced that the merfolk's survival lay in dominance over both land and sea, betrayed the other kingdoms. He attempted to seize control of the combined powers, to force an end to their hidden existence through overwhelming force. His reckless ambition fractured the alliance, leading to a devastating conflict that cost countless lives and irrevocably scarred the ocean floor. The combined, uncontrolled energies of the other kingdoms, unleashed in defense, inadvertently contributed to the demise of Ethel, sinking it into an abyss from which it never returned, a chilling reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and ultimate betrayal. The remaining four kingdoms swore never to speak of Ethel's leader by name, his legacy a gaping wound in their history. These four surviving kingdoms, distinct in their environment, appearance, and abilities, were bound by a shared history of suffering and a solemn, desperate pact, to aid each other against humanity, the Kraken's kin, and the Sirens, and to preserve the dwindling, precious legacy of their kind. Their existence was a constant, precarious dance between survival and extinction. Their immense powers, while offering a means of defense, were also a terrifying burden, a secret known only to the highest elders, ensuring they were wielded with the utmost caution and only in the direst of circumstances, for the consequence of failure was the destruction of the world they desperately sought to save, a destruction almost wrought by their own kind. Their diet consisted primarily of the ocean's bounty, though never in excess, always mindful of the delicate balance. They cultivated vast gardens of nutrient-rich seaweed and bioluminescent algae, which they harvested carefully. For protein, they fished, but only for the schooling fish that propagated quickly, leaving the larger, slower-growing species undisturbed. Their meals were often augmented with shimmering, plump deep-sea mollusks and the occasional flash of swiftly caught silverfish. Every mouthful was a blessing, a fragile taste of life in a world that constantly sought to take it away. Merfolk beliefs centered around the Great Ocean Mother, a benevolent, all-encompassing spirit believed to be the source of all life in the sea. They understood the ocean not as a resource to be plundered, but as a living entity, a sacred trust they were bound to protect. Their rituals involved harmonious chants that resonated through the water, stirring the currents and encouraging the growth of their food sources. They believed in the interconnectedness of all sea creatures, holding a reverence for even the smallest plankton, seeing them as vital threads in the grand tapestry of the ocean. Death, for them, was a return to the embrace of the Ocean Mother, their physical forms dissolving to nourish the very waters that had sustained them. They also revered the ancient whisperers, those merfolk who had lived through the great betrayal and maintained the knowledge of the hidden passages in the old ways. Their wisdom was a living history, a constant, painful reminder of both humanity's destructive potential and the merfolk's own dwindling resilience, a resilience forged in the fires of both human cruelty and merfolk ambition. Beyond the threats of humanity, ancient perils lurked in the deeper, unexplored trenches, a constant, chilling presence. Tales were whispered of the Kraken's kin, not the singular monstrous kraken of human legend, but a lineage of colossal, predatory cephalopods. These beasts, with eyes like swirling abyssal pits and tentacles that could crush a small ship, were driven by an ancient, insatiable hunger. They viewed both merfolk and surface dwellers as mere sustenance, their infrequent ascents from the black depths causing devastating currents and leaving trails of destruction, a raw, primal terror. Even more insidious were the sirens of the Shrouded Isles. Unlike the merfolk, these creatures were born of malevolent magic, their upper bodies like withered, skeletal humanoids, their lower halves twisted, thorny tails. Their voices, though beautiful to human ears, carried a potent, maddening allure that drew sailors to their doom on jagged rocks, feasting on the terror and despair they created, a cruel symphony of death. Merfolk were immune to their direct song, but the sirens would often hunt near the merfolk's hidden territories, their chilling presence a constant, ominous reminder of the dark forces that also inhabited the ocean. While humans faced the sirens' lure on the surface, merfolk battled the Kraken's kin in the crushing depths, two distinct, ancient threats that highlighted the inherent dangers of the vast, mysterious ocean, a world that was both their sanctuary and their greatest enemy. Merfolk had long hidden from humanity, a cautionary tale passed down through generations. The elders spoke of the Great Betrayal, a time when humans, once allies, turned on their underwater counterparts. They built colossal nets that swept through the ocean, ensnaring entire pods of merfolk, dragging them to the surface to be gawked at, experimented on, or worse. The humans, with their insatiable curiosity and their ever-advancing technology, saw the merfolk not as equals, but as exotic specimens to be captured and controlled. The memory of shimmering scales drying in the sun, of desperate songs turning to gurgles, was etched deep into the collective consciousness of the Coral Kingdom. Their fear wasn't just of physical harm, it was of the unknown, of a world that didn't understand, and often destroyed, what it couldn't comprehend. To protect their dwindling numbers and their sacred home, the merfolk employed a sophisticated blend of natural defenses and innate abilities. The very currents surrounding the Coral Kingdom were subtly manipulated by the elders, creating intricate, confusing eddies and disorienting surges that steered unwanted vessels far off course. Specialized merfolk, known as tide weavers, possess the ability to conjure powerful localized whirlpools or create illusions of impenetrable fog on the surface, making their territory appear treacherous and unwelcoming. For more direct threats, the merfolk possessed subtle but potent powers. They could emit sonic pulses, not loud enough to harm marine life, but capable of disorienting human divers or disrupting the sensitive instruments on human ships. In moments of extreme danger, some could unleash a blinding luminescence, a burst of light so intense it could temporarily incapacitate those who witnessed it, allowing for swift, desperate escape. Furthermore, the merfolk had an empathic connection to larger ocean creatures. While they never enslaved or commanded, they could subtly influence the movements of great whales or schools of sharks, encouraging them to breach near human ships as a deterrent, or to silently patrol the outer reaches of the kingdom, acting as living sentinels. Their true strength, however, lay in their unity and their unwavering, terrified commitment to secrecy. One sweltering afternoon, while the elder merfolk napped in cool grottos, Lyra found herself drawn to the whisper of the shallows, a forbidden boundary, a dangerous allure. Tales of the dry world were whispered with fear and fascination, a place of harsh light, breathable air, and strange, bipedal creatures. Curiosity, an ever-present, rebellious current in Lyra's heart, pulled her closer, towards the brink of the unknown. She swam to the surface, her orange tail a flash of brilliance against the dappled light, a vibrant defiance. Breaking the calm water, she gasped, not for air, but at the sheer, blinding expanse above. A giant, golden disk hung in the sky, scorching her eyes, a brutal, alien sun. But then she saw it, a sandy stretch, dotted with strange, rigid plants that didn't sway like kelp, and a dark, weathered object that seemed to have sprung from the very earth itself. Driven by an irresistible, dangerous urge, Lyra edged closer, her tail touching the grainy seabed. The dark object resolved into a small, wooden boat, half buried in the sand. And there, slumped against its side, was a human. Kael, the human, was young, appearing to be in his late teens or early 20s. His hair, the color of dried seaweed, a rather unremarkable mousy brown, was plastered to his forehead with sweat and seawater, falling across a high, slightly receding hairline. His skin, pale as the underside of a moon jellyfish, was dusted with fine, sun-bleached hair, and smudged with dirt and a faint stubble along his jawline. A jagged gash bled sluggishly on his forehead, a dark, angry line against his pallor, a stark symbol of his vulnerability. He wore simple, rough spun tunic and breeches, soaked through and clinging to his lean frame, revealing the faint outline of ribs. His hands, though currently slack, appeared calloused, suggesting a life of hardship and labor. As his eyes fluttered open, they revealed a startling shade of green, the color of a rare, deep-sea algae Lyra had only seen once, a vibrant contrast to his otherwise muted appearance, hinting at a hidden depth. Fear warred with a strange, burgeoning compassion in Lyra's chest. Her elders spoke of humans as destroyers, their nets scarring the ocean floor, their vessels spewing black smoke. Yet, this one looked so fragile, so utterly helpless, a stark contradiction to the monsters of legend. Ignoring the ingrained warnings, the chilling tales, Lyra reached out. Her fingers, webbed and delicate, brushed his arm. He stirred, groaning. His eyes fluttered open, revealing that startling shade of green, and a moment of pure, raw terror and awe. He mumbled something she couldn't understand, his voice rough and rasping. She knew she should retreat, swim back to the safety of the Coral Kingdom, report this unforgivable transgression. But then his gaze fixed on her tail, wide with a mixture of profound terror and impossible wonder. "A mermaid?" he whispered, his voice gaining a sliver of strength, a whisper that bridged worlds. Lyra, unable to speak his language, could only tilt her head, her orange scales catching the sun, a silent, desperate question. He tried to push himself up, wincing, a grimace of pain. She instinctively placed a hand on his chest, a silent plea for him to stay still, a gesture of unexpected intimacy. For hours, Lyra remained there, a sentinel at the edge of two worlds, defying centuries of fear. She gathered cool, smooth pebbles and pressed them to his forehead, attempting to ease his fever, a tender act of rebellion. She didn't know what to do, only that she couldn't leave him. The weight of generations of prejudice pressed down on her, yet his frail humanity held her captive. As dusk painted the sky in shades of violent violet and desperate rose, Kael, as she learned from the faint engraving on a wooden locket around his neck, had recovered enough to sit up. He pointed at her tail, then at himself, making a gesture she interpreted as questioning. "Lyra," she whispered, pointing to herself, a name offered across the chasm of their species. He smiled, a weak, grateful expression that tore at her heart. "Kael." The sun dipped below the horizon, and the cool night air began to descend. Lyra knew she couldn't stay much longer. The night patrols of the Coral Kingdom would soon begin, their vigilant eyes searching, and her absence would be noticed. But leaving Kael felt impossibly, tragically wrong. She looked at him, then back at the endless, inviting ocean. An idea, wild and dangerous, ignited within her, a spark of madness. It was a folly, a profound rebellion against every law she had ever known, every ancient warning. But as Kael's green eyes met hers, filled with a silent, desperate plea, a plea for connection, Lyra knew she had to try. This fragile human, this accidental trespasser, had become her impossible choice. Lyra, driven by a burgeoning, dangerous connection with Kael, sought the whispering tides, ancient currents rumored to lead to forgotten pathways between the sea and land. These were not mere ocean streams, but magical conduits, remnants of a time when merfolk and humans coexisted, a time tragically lost. The oldest merfolk whispered of them, but few dared to venture into their unpredictable, perilous depths. These passages were a closely guarded secret, a final, desperate escape route should humanity ever truly discover their main kingdom. The whispering tides pulled Lyra and Kael along the coast, past towering cliffs where seabirds cried their lonely, indifferent songs. They entered a hidden cove, where the water glowed with bioluminescent algae, illuminating a submerged cave entrance like an ominous promise. This, Lyra sensed, was the first passage. Inside, the cave walls were covered in ancient carvings, faded depictions of merfolk and humans, hand in hand, alongside strange symbols that pulsed with a faint, inner light. As Lyra swam deeper, the carvings seemed to come alive, telling a silent, tragic story of trade, alliance, and eventual, brutal separation. The passage led to a hidden spring, bubbling up into a secluded grove on land, a brief, fragile moment of peace between worlds. Kael, though weak, was awestruck. He tried to communicate, pointing at the carvings, his face etched with wonder, but Lyra could only offer a sad smile, a tear almost lost in the water. She knew the history, the broken treaties, the fear that had driven their peoples apart, the bloodshed on both sides, the legacy of Ethel's folly. Their time in the grove was short, a stolen breath. Lyra knew that staying too long would risk discovery by both relentless merfolk patrols and merciless human settlements. She decided to use the passage again, hoping it would lead to a safer place for Kael, perhaps closer to his people, a place where he might truly belong. The next passage led them to a bustling port city, a cacophony of alien noise. The air was thick with the foul smell of fish and acrid smoke, the sounds of human voices a chaotic, terrifying symphony. Lyra, hidden beneath the waves, her heart pounding against her ribs, watched as Kael, now stronger, interacted with his own kind. She saw their suspicion, their fear, when he spoke of her. They recoiled from the very idea of a mermaid, their faces twisted by generations of ingrained prejudice and fear of the unknown, their ignorance a weapon. Whispers of monsters and dark omens followed him, tainting his brave truth. One day, Kael returned to the shore, his face etched with a crushing sorrow that mirrored her own. He explained, in desperate gestures and broken words, the bitter truth: his people couldn't accept her. The old prejudices ran too deep, too toxic. He had faced hostility and disbelief, even from those he considered friends, their fear stronger than any bond. The memory of the great betrayal, though unknown to Kael directly, manifested in his people's ingrained distrust of anything alien and powerful from the sea. He had to choose between his world and hers, and the pressure from his community was immense, suffocating. Lyra, heartbroken but understanding, her spirit aching, knew what she had to do. She couldn't force a bridge where none was wanted, couldn't defy the tides of ingrained hatred. She showed him another passage, one that led to a quiet, secluded beach near his village, a place where he could safely return without raising further alarm about his strange, dangerous tales. Their farewell was silent, a profound ache of unspoken words, filled with a shared sadness and a fragile, desperate hope for a future where their worlds might one day understand each other. Lyra watched him go, a human walking away from the ocean, and felt the chasm between them deepen. She returned to the whispering tides, carrying the heavy weight of her encounters with humanity, determined to keep the ancient passages open, a testament to a time when connection was possible, a fleeting hope she clung to, a hope she prayed, one day, to see again.